the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 128, recorded Saturday, February 1st, 2014. Smart Junk.
Ready.
AVWeek.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AVWeek. This is AVWeek, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. Hi, my name is Tim Albright. I'm your host. With us this week, you know him as Big Nate, but he has a real job besides being a fabulous and rather successful YouTuber. He's the AV designer with Image Stream Medical. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Tim. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for the kind words.
Oh, dude, anybody that has as many views and downloads as you, you've got, what was it, over 1 million now already on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, coming up to 1.3 million views, and I actually just broke 3,000 subscribers last week.
That's
so that was
cool.
Kind of cool. Yeah.
If you get a chance, we'll put it on a link on the web on the episode page. Nate does his handle is Big Nate How To, because that's what he shows you. The YouTube channel is how to do different things, and you recently went through a move, and so you put some up since the move. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, just this morning I was working on my next little mini-series all about DVD ripping. So probably later today I will make those videos go live, and I've got 4 videos about DVD ripping. But yes, you're right. Since I moved into my new place, you can see I no longer have my pegboard with all my different cables behind me anymore. So I actually have an office upstairs that's not in a basement, which is kind of cool.
It's kind of neat. You can see
but
the
yeah,
sun.
Exactly. Just transitioning to my new place over here, settling back in again, ramping things up again for 2014. So excited for it.
All right. And also with us, I almost said a fellow technology manager, but I'm not one anymore. So I'll explain what that means in a second. Aaron Wilson, an enterprise AV professional. How are you, sir?
Doing as one could do in this snowy, cold weather in the Midwest.
Yes. We're supposed to get 12 inches on Tuesday, so not that, we should talk about the weather. Well, real quickly, and not that this is a sports AV podcast, but anybody have any dog in the hunt on this Super Bowl weekend? Besides, Nate's a big Patriots fan, so
Yeah. So I'm a big Patriots fan, so obviously a little bummed still that they played horribly against the Denver Broncos, but I'm excited to watch the game. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I really could go either way. If the Seahawks win, they've got the best defense, and then if the Broncos win, they've got the best offense. So I don't really have a dog in the fight, but I definitely will be tuning in.
Yeah, as they used to say, the defense wins championships, so that's a precursor. I personally hope it isn't, because I'm a big fan of Manning more than anything. Mr. Wilson, you have anything?
I got my money on the Lions. Oh, wait.
Jeez. Wow. God. Do you guys have a head coach yet? Speaking of which, I didn't think so.
I'll catch up on who's playing tomorrow. I don't know, probably about an hour before the game.
Mr. Wilson and I will go round and round because I'm a rabid Bears fan, so, not that we did much except for hand the NFC North title to Green Bay this year, but that was fun to watch. So, and gives Cutler an ungodly amount of money for too many years. That's also my opinion. So, anyhow, moving on. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about this week, and stop boring people with all this stuff. First of all, AVNu Alliance has their very first certified products. That's kind of cool, and we'll talk about who it is and what it is. I got to talk to the folks there at the AVNu Alliance and what the people from their first one. The Savant has a new CEO. It didn't take long. We'll talk about why what he's talking about and whether or not Savant is the Apple for home automation. Facebook is making use of Blu-rays, which is interesting, and Sony has been downgraded to a junk bond. Anybody surprised at that? Anybody? Nope. Didn't think so. Okay.
No takers.
No takers. But first, on the heels of ISE, which, if for those of you and for those of us who are not headed to bright, sunny Amsterdam in the end of January, 1st of February, I actually wish I was going. It's a neat show. It has consistently been one of the bigger AV shows in the world. In the last couple of years, you can make arguments as to why that is. The fact that it's a partnership between ISE or between Infocom and CEDIA. So you've got both of those aspects. It's the fact that you've got the emerging markets, but you've got the established markets of Europe and the Middle East. You've got Russia coming in there, and parts of Asia as well. There's a whole lot of reasons. It's also technically the first big Pro AV show of the calendar year. I mean, obviously, it depends on where you put your calendar. Some people put their fiscal in June. And in that case, Infocom is the first one. But before we, all of that, as ISE is gearing up, Crestron has unveiled an interesting little controller. And I say interesting, or they're unveiling it next week. It's a compact 3 series controller for $1,000. Now that's the retail, and as I'm quickly learning in my first week on my job as an integrator, as opposed to a technology manager, $1,000 is what I'm not going to say how much it is, but that's not what you're going to end up paying, right? So let's just call it a sub $1,000 Series 3 processor. Aaron, we're going to kick this off with you first. When it comes to not just home automation, because that's how the article is kind of couching it. But I'm seeing this as a game changer in terms of classrooms, in terms of boardrooms, where, because everything is moving to IP, you don't necessarily need this big honking Mamma Jamma Pro 3 or AV3 or a big processor to have, 10, or not really 10, but, 7 RS-232 ports and this, that, and the other. You can have something like this. Still has a Series 3 processor, which is their newest and latest, greatest processor, all for under $1,000. How big of a deal is that?
No, it's. I was excited to see this. One thing I initially skipped on the article was it's powered over Ethernet as well.
Mm-hmm.
So slapping this under a conference room table, maybe in a room where you don't have an AV equipment rack, you want to control a flat panel that's on a wall with maybe a video conferencing unit on top of it and maybe a projector in the room. You've got a pretty minimal room. You could easily slap this under a table, hide it in one of like a steel case cubby on one of the tables, and power it over the Ethernet connection, which is going to control the touch panel that's already on the Ethernet and already control the video conferencing unit that's on the network. And so I was excited to see this. So I'll most likely be picking one up once they become available, because the MC3 was already fairly inexpensive, and this makes it even less expensive to get the powerhouse of Crestron control system into a room.
Yeah, that was what I was seeing as well, is the fact that you've got, the MC3 was neat. MC3 had some weird things, though. I wasn't entirely the whole weird component input is still weird to me.
Right.
But you're right. It's a sub $1,000 powerhouse. Nate, when it comes to this and just trying to further give folks some pretty powerful processing tools, how big of a deal is this for Crestron to come in under $1,000?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely caught my attention. As an AV designer, this is a nice little tool to fit in your tool belt that can maybe solve some problems for somebody who's looking to stash equipment somewhere in a room that maybe they can't fit a rack, or maybe they're limited to a tiny little credenza and they have to fit everything into this tiny little credenza. This is going to be a nice form factor to have in your tool belt, and to still give you the relays, the 232 COM ports, and everything else that comes with it, like CrestNet and
don't give them too much credit, Nate. It's one COM port, okay? So it's not
Oh, did I say COM ports plural?
It's plural. Yes, it has one COM port, so that means it has one more than a DMPS.
I will issue a public apology and say that I misspoke.
No, I'm joking. You know what? That's one thing that irks me about the DMPS line in general. There's 2 freaking COM ports. I mean, what was it? One of the lines of the CPs, and again, this is probably 5-7 years ago. They had like 3 or 4, and still, the fact you can't put one more stinking COM port. I actually have a job that's really rubbing me the wrong way. I'm trying to, so.
Well, you know what's rubbing me the wrong way about Crestron, just while we're there, is the Pro 3.
Yeah.
They changed up. So moving from the Pro 2 to the Pro 3, they moved from 9-pin COM ports to Phoenix.
But see, I loved that.
Yeah.
No,
I love the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Hear me out.
Don't hate the Phoenix.
I think the Phoenix is good. I just hate where they put the ground because it messes up all of our standard wiring details that now have to be redrawn.
All right.
So I just wanted to get that out there because that was kind of like, oh, sweet, we got a Phoenix connector. Oh, wait a minute. Ground is pin 1. Ah, crap.
Yeah, that's kind of stupid. I mean, ground is pin 5, always. Sorry.
Yeah, that would have been a little bit nice, but anyway, that's my dig on the Pro 3.
Is it at least in the documentation somewhere, or do you have to call tech support to find that out?
Oh no, it's right. It's
I think
clear.
it's printed on the back, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is it?
it's
Okay.
clear.
Yeah.
Very clear,
Yeah.
but just a pain, to have to redo all that.
Since we're ripping on our fine friends from Rockley, New Jersey, I'll give you one more. We're in the process of doing a lecture hall in a hospital, and we're using a TSW, nice, sexy, gorgeous, huge touch panel. Inexpensive for the size and everything, powered over Ethernet, and I'm really loving the whole, control over Ethernet and the speed of that. There's not a way to lock it down currently. Like it's connected. We're wall mounting it, right? And so you've got this little back box with these magnets, and that's how it sticks to it. And our project manager called me yesterday. He's like, "Hey, is there a way to make this not takeable?" Like, what the hell are you talking about? He goes, "Well, you just kind of stick it to the wall, and it's just magnets there." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's it." He's like, "I could walk up right now and just pop it off, and no big deal, and stick it in my pocket." I'm like, "Yeah, but first of all, these are doctors and nurses, and secondly, you're not going to have a use for it." But yeah, I had to call tech support yesterday, and they said, "Yeah, we're working on that. They're either going to release like a post construction kit, or just come up with a new touch panel altogether." So,
That's an interesting problem. What about the technology they use at junkyards to pick up like old cars and stuff? Maybe they can get some sort of electromagnet lock that they turn up the juice when the room shuts down or something.
Yeah, you could do that. Electromagnetic magnet, and you could put a relay on it and shoot it out. Of course,
Probably waste so much energy it wouldn't be worthwhile.
No.
But just
That's what they use to secure door locks usually,
Yeah.
or the magnetic lock. So
yeah, I don't know. I have to look into that.
Well, here's the thing. It's not like this is an old 17-inch Quick Media touch panel. I mean, cost-wise.
Quick media.
No, it's serious. You remember those things? First of all, they're 15 and 17 inches, and secondly, they were like list price $18,000. This thing is nowhere near that. So I was. Besides, if you did that with this processor, you would be taking away one of your 2 relays. So then all you could do is send the screen down and not back up. All right. Sorry. AVNu Alliance has their very first certified product. It is, drum roll, an Extreme Network switch. Now, first of all, a little thing about AVB and the AVNu Alliance. I am unapologetically bullish on AVB. Yes, there is no V to speak of currently, except for on show floors. Right, Barco had some serious video going on with AVB last year at the AVNu Alliance Pavilion in Infocom, but there's none in the wild. At least not that I'm aware of. I've not seen any. But everything that I've seen and read and experienced over the last 12 months with AVB, very, very bullish about this. And they've finally gotten this down. They've finally gotten it together. It's at the University of New Hampshire, which gives, first of all, in fact, you're using a university facilities to do this. It gives it some credibility, and it's not 2 guys in the back room with a multimeter saying, "Oh yeah, it works." So that's kind of cool. Secondly, It's a switch that's the first thing, so that's important, right? It's the middle point between the talkers and the listeners and everybody else, and this, that, and the other. In talking with the guys this week from the AVNu Alliance, the one thing that kind of caught my ear was the fact I said, okay, great, you've worked on this for a year now. You've got your first product. Congratulations. Is it going to take a year for every product? They say no, right? They say no. They say once the process, because the process is up and running and they've got it in extreme, it has the honor of being the first product, they say a week to get products through their system. Nate, first of all, first question for you. Is it important to have AVB products certified by the Alliance, certified by the folks that are doing it? And if it is, how big of a deal is it for them to ramp this up to have things coming out a week at a time?
Yeah, I think this is a huge deal, and I think it's very important that AVNu Alliance certifies their products so that it is up to par. The thing about AVB that is unique is that it's basically an Ethernet upgrade. So this isn't like some other types of transport technology, but this is a set of 4 IEEE standards that will upgrade the Ethernet spec to expand what it can do. And the big thing that it's bringing to Ethernet is sync information or time information. It's adding a little bit of information into, from what I understand, the header of each packet, and these switches are basically, you can think of them as smart switches. So when you do have audio and video that needs to be in sync, it's going to give that information priority or quality of service over other things that are running on that same network. So for me, I'm really excited for this. I don't know how fast it's going to be taking off, but I definitely think it's going to be a winner over the long term. And I was speaking to Greg Schlechter from Intel, and he's one of the AVNu members, and the way he was describing it is that someday we're going to look back and say, wait a minute, there was a time when Ethernet didn't have sync information? Like, that's crazy, So I definitely think it's going to be the way things go long term. The common dig, as you said, it's mostly just used for audio right now. It's not being used for video, but I think a lot of things are going to change, and the AVNu Alliance, or AVB, is to Ethernet kind of what Wi-Fi was to Ethernet. Remember when you had all those different 802 dot whatever standards, and then Wi-Fi kind of brought them all under the same roof. That's what the AVNu Alliance is trying to do.
Aaron, in your world and in my former world, when it comes to working with networks and working with let's just put it out there, IT and AV departments, sometimes it's interesting, right? And kudos to Extreme Networks for having the first switch out there. But there's a name that everybody, the people that are bullish on AVB, have been waiting on, and that name is Cisco. There is a rumor, and I've propagated it because I heard it and it sounded right, that there is a firmware switch, and that Cisco's kind of waiting in the wings for this to take off, and once it gains speed, they'll flip a switch, and there you go. At least the Cisco switches from the last year will be AVB enabled, not certified necessarily, but they'll at least have the ability to do AVB. When it comes to classes and universities and Fortune 500 companies, is that kind of where we're waiting on? Is somebody like Cisco or like Intel, somebody that has the IT chops to say this is good and here's our stamp?
Oh, definitely. Because if you look, and really that was my first thought when I read the article was, oh great, it's not Cisco that is certified, so that means nobody's going to use it in the enterprise environment. No. And then my second thought was, hopefully this does start the light of fire under Cisco's butt. And it's good if that rumor is true, that this is going to be enabled just by a firmware switch. But if you look at what Cisco's doing as far as unified communications with WebEx and video conferencing, and being able to merge those technologies together, and IP phones, this is just one more thing. If I can if I can put a stream of video and audio out onto my Cisco network, and then incorporate it into a video conference room automatically because I got Cisco hardware, Cisco endpoints, that's definitely a move in the right direction. One thing that, now I don't know too much in detail about AVB just because HD-based is what I've been dealing with mostly, and AVB hasn't really produced a whole lot, but I'm curious how AVB differs from IG MPV3, which Clear 1 has some of those devices, and Cisco's, a lot of Cisco's newer switches support it, and that's more or less AVB, where you can have a single source go to multiple destinations all via the network. So Nate or Tim, I don't know if you know too much about a compare and contrast between those two technologies, but I'm kind of curious why everybody's always looking at AVB but not so much IGMPv3, which has been out there for quite a while actually.
No, I really don't know the details behind why IG, MPv3 isn't more popular or more widespread. I don't really know too much about it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't either. The one thing about this though is you've got Aaron mentioned HD-based T, which is point to point, still has a lot. I mean, they've also got a certification process. And the nice thing about HD-based T, it's point to point, right? It is what it is. AMX
it works.
It works. Yeah,
it's out there.
It just works.
I can put my hands on it.
Yeah.
Well, it does. It works. It works as an extender. I've never heard anybody complain that HD-based T has failed to extend signals long distances. But the whole 5-play, I think it's maybe more for home theater use, but the 5-play feature set that they're trying to implement, I've heard sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I think they're still working out the bugs with that. But as an extender, I would have to agree.
Well, extender,
it's rock solid.
Here's the thing, though, guys. I mean, you've got AMX and Crestron's, both of their HD video signal over twisted pair / fiber is based on HD-based T. They're both based on the Valence chip, right? So what they're doing, it's a stretch. So stick with me here. You can extrapolate a little bit and give HD-based T a little bit of credit on what AMX and Crestron are doing, right? It's not HD-based T. It's not those guys. It is Crestron's engineers that are making it happen. It is AMX's engineers that are making it happen. But the fact that they're using the Valence chip and they're using the base technology of HD-based T, it is a little bit more than just an extender. I think the one thing, an interesting thing, and actually mentioning, our boys in blue, they recently joined the AVNu Alliance as well. So that's kind of interesting to me. What they're going to do with that. The week that it came out, we had Bradford Ben from Harman on, and he made a good point. He goes, well, it might just be the fact that Crestron is hedging their bets, right? They're covering all their bases. They're saying, okay, you know what? We've got this HD-based T stuff, and hey, there's thing over here that may or may not, kind of cook up. So let's join these guys as well and see what's going on. For people who are more optimistic about the AVB, they see the Crestron move as maybe there'll be a DMPS with AVB someday. So
well, and is AVB solving a problem? I haven't researched it too much because I've dealt with CobraNet as far as audio, packetized audio. Okay, that solves a problem. Does AVB solve a problem? Because HD-based T solved a problem with switching to digital. We need to go long hauls with digital high resolution content, and then it also helps with content or protected or content protected
protection.
Content protection. Well, I can't even think today. It must be the cold weather.
HDCP.
Yes, HDCP. Thank you. So, what is AVB solving that maybe we don't already have out there? Like, what problem is it solving? Because I'm not seeing. I mean, if I throw a class or a classroom or a conference room video and audio stream onto the network, okay, am I going to grab it off the network and put it into other conference rooms? I mean, how does it help me inside of a building or inside of a school? Or I guess I don't see the problem it's trying to solve, or is it trying to create a problem and then have a resolution for it?
That's a valid question.
That might be why it hasn't taken off.
Yeah.
How does it help me in my day job? It it doesn't actually, you know.
Here's the thing, and this is where I would answer that from my own perspective. If you're doing one classroom, right? You've got a bunch, let's say you have a podium that has a laptop and some other stuff, and you're going to send that over, back to a rack somewhere, right? And you've got some sort of touch panel. I don't care who you're using. It's not going. There's not a problem there for AVB to solve. It's point to point, right? That right there is lock, stock, and barrel what HD base T is for. You have a situation. You have a building or some sort of facility where you need to get one signal several places seamlessly while maintaining all the content protection that everybody says that we need to, and don't. I've heard really nasty rumors about the next round of content protection protocols. That's the problem that AVB is solving, right? It's one point to several locations, just like CobraNet, right? Just like CobraNet, just like several other audio protocols that allow you to send audio over the network. You've got one source and you want to send it several places and not worry about DAs or not worry about anything, any of the managed DA, not the managed DAing, but the managed switching that sometimes has to happen with HD base T and distributing that over several different things. You've got one source and you have several destinations, and the only thing you have between it is a switch. So in one classroom, absolutely not. You got no use for it. In several classrooms or one presentation to several different areas, I think that's where they're going to really make their bones. So.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, that is a great question from Aaron. What problem does it solve? And I think today it might not be a big problem, but I think Tim, I was thinking the same, right along those same lines. It's when you have a 10-room system, basically, or a facility that needs every room, and you've got 10 or more rooms that all need to talk to each other or talk to just a few of them or whatever, instead of the infrastructure required to pull a cable between each of those places or back to a head end, you can hang each room on the network. And I think that's going to be the big value add is just having a beefy network installed and being able to use the network that's already there. So I think really it's in the infrastructure on large scale projects is where you see AVB having the biggest positive impact. Yeah. But it's also used in automobiles too. I think BMW just got on board. So it's not just that, but it also supports wireless. So you can do wireless AVB too, or at some point in the future. I'm not sure where they are with that, but that's definitely in the works. So.
That was another interesting thing in talking to these guys this week is they're very bullish on the number of auto manufacturers. GM is on as well, that have kind of grasped a hold of this thing for not only HD video, but all the other the inter-systems communication that needs to happen between the entertainment system and the fuel injection system and things that I don't understand because I'm not a car guy. I know how to change my oil. That's about it. But they were saying having all these different inter-systems communications is really important right now because this and this and this, and so that's kind of cool. So.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about the communications aspect of it. When I thought of these car manufacturers, I'm thinking of getting audio and video routed around the car, but it's more than just that. So even I have to change my thinking about it because I don't think I'm thinking about it rightly.
Oh, I know.
That's a cool approach, but if 3 years from now we're like, AVB is at the core of our cars, and that's all we think of with AVB. I don't know if it's going to be much of a success. So.
That's true. That's true. All right, you are listening and watching AVWeek. That gentleman right there who was just saying, "Hey, AVB." Aaron Wilson and also Big Nate Schneider from Big Nate Ask or Big Nate How To. Let's beat up on Sony for a second, and then we'll move on. Sony is on the ropes, according to the Register, after Moody's downgraded their bonds to junk. Real quick economics lesson here, guys. If you're bond rating goes to, and this is Sony's Japan that rated Sony from a BAA3 to a BA1. Junk status means that a bond is not a worthy investment. Attaining this status usually pushes up the cost of borrowing money for a company because it is seen as less likely to service its debts. In other words, Sony is your friend who will never pay you back, is what we're saying. Aaron, is this okay, first of all, not that we use a lot of Sony, or not that technology managers use a lot of Sony anymore, but is this just kind of the last death throes for Sony, or can they come back from this?
Well, I guess it depends on what market you're talking about, because as far as pro video goes, I'm a huge Sony fan. I love Sony video cameras and the professional grade monitors, etc. So I would say, you're kind of speaking to technology managers, but I mean, Sony's not going away in the pro video market whatsoever. And I was kind of reading the article, and I didn't know if I'm not a finance person by any means, but they said junk bond. I'm like, wait, is that the register just saying that, or is that an actual term? So I would say
that's an actual term. Yeah.
No, yeah. It's just it's the register. So you gotta take a look.
No.
So for the consumer stuff, yeah, maybe the movie and the media industry, yeah, I could see where they're not where they were back in the 80s and early 90s. I mean, Sony Walkman, that was the thing to have, and when you bought Sony made in Japan, it was top of the line stuff, regardless of what they were putting out. But now it almost seems like they need to maybe split up the company a little bit, because if they're getting a poor rating on the overall company, how is that going to affect maybe their higher end equipment that is used by broadcasters and used in the professional industry compared to more of the consumer or the entertainment market? I mean, I would hate to see the professional market go away or start to suffer because they're getting poor ratings, or they're doing things in the consumer market that aren't favorable to the company as a whole.
Well, Nate, that raises a really good question. Is it the fact that because Sony does have several different verticals, and they famously don't talk to each other, so is this a case where one or two of their verticals that are suffering could bring down the entire enterprise?
Well, I can really only speak for my personal experience with Sony. Like today, I mean, we can look back at the Walkman, as Aaron mentioned, and look at these awesome or glory days, so to speak, when they had the best products. Yeah, and to be honest, right now, my interaction with Sony on a regular basis is for the PTZ cameras.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I just bought a dozen of them. Great.
and they work well, and we use them all the time. We spec them, and we're not really looking at anything else for the time being. But in addition to the PTZ cameras in the professional market, I don't know that we look to Sony a lot, at least for what we're doing with integrated operating rooms. And I know that's kind of like a niche thing, but that's the perspective that I have. And the other perspective I have on Sony is like their Blu-ray players, because I've got one in my family room, and it's kind of a junky little device, to be honest with you. It wasn't really too impressive. I mean, it's a Blu-ray player. What do you expect out of it? But I don't know. I hope that the professional line sticks around, and they're not impacted too negatively by this, but maybe they divide up and have to break off into other. I have no idea how this stuff works. This is a big company, so there's a lot of inner workings.
It is, and it's one of those companies that you never expect to fold, right? And I'm not saying they're folding. Don't misunderstand that. But it is. I think it is in financial trouble, and I think it's been in financial trouble for a while. Part of the reason is the fact that they simply don't talk to each other. I mean, they've got several different verticals. You have the pro, you have the entertainment, you have the consumer, you've got all these other things, and they simply just don't communicate well. So, all right, guys, from avforums.com, we're going to delve slightly into the resi and consumer electronics for a second. The global installed base of smart TV devices passed 1 billion in 2013, and according to them, will exceed 2 billion by 2017, according to research from Future Source Consulting. All right, Big Nate, let's get into smart TVs for a second. First of all, is this a big deal? I mean, the fact that smart TVs have crossed 1 billion. I mean, let's be honest here. If you go to Best Buy, you go to Amazon, or you go wherever it is you go to buy your television, your flat panel, you're going to have a hard time finding one that's not a smart TV, right? So, is this a big deal? The fact that we've hit the billion smart TV mark?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a big deal. You can't ignore the billion there. The problem is, so smart TVs or smart technology in general is it's kind of a double-edged sword. When somebody puts out a product and it has the word smart on it, you never really know what you're going to get. It's like the Forrest Gump thing, it's like open up a box of chocolates. So I think some companies can do smart TVs really well, and I've had great experiences with them. Like I'm a big fan of Google TV, which is essentially enabled by a set of smart TVs that actually I think Sony put out, or I have a Logitech Review that has Google TV in it, but that's getting old now. It's time to upgrade. Some experiences I've had with smart devices have been pretty bad, and so I wonder you and I kind of can understand this because we work in this stuff all the time, but the general average Joe out there, I wonder if their perception of smart has been tainted by some of these awful user interfaces that are, just kind of thrown in there last minute. Oh yeah, let's make this thing smart, and it really doesn't have a good user experience associated with it. But that said, there's a lot you can do with a smart TV that's on the internet. It's just a lot more software and a lot more user interface types of technology that need to be developed, I think, to get this to where it's really more user friendly.
Yeah.
And how are we classifying a smart TV? Because I guess when I think of smart TV, I think, all right, does it have Netflix and YouTube on it?
And that's it.
I mean, that's what else are we using the quote unquote smart TVs for?
Well, that's the thing is does it have some sort of connectivity, right? Does it have are there any sort of gesture controls in it? Does it have Angry Birds? Does it, Hulu would probably be on there, but I think you're right, Aaron. Does it have YouTube and Netflix, and then derivatives from there? Whether that again is Hulu or what have you.
And here's the other rub with smart TVs too. I mean, my parents asked me for advice on buying a TV, and I suggested a Samsung because they're really well. They're doing really well, and I feel like they're putting out a pretty good product. And they've got this Samsung, smart TV, and we got it home only to find out you needed to buy like a $60 dongle to put in the back of it to really enable any of the smart features too. So I don't know if there might be a billion crappy units out there. I don't know if there's a billion awesome units.
Are we getting to smart enabled now or smart ready? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, remember HD ready?
No, I remember 3D ready.
HD ready. Oh, yeah. 3D ready. Okay.
Well, they still have the Wi-Fi ready ones where they support Wi-Fi as long as you got the USB Wi-Fi adapter. I mean, I just bought some TVs that are like that a few weeks ago, so it's still out there. So are they classifying that as smart because if you didn't run a hardwire to it and you didn't buy the USB dongle to enable Wi-Fi, well, it's got the apps on there, but you're never going to use the apps if it doesn't have an internet connection. So they might be smart, but they're not using it in that way.
And they got to come with some sort of keyboard because doing the point and click on your remote control and trying to do a Facebook update, it's no fun.
Or either that or some sort of halfway decent mobile interface, right? Either an app on your cell phone or an app on your tablet, because you're right. Those keyboards are absolutely you have to have some sort of keyboard because doing it with the interfaces is not happening. Really quick, stupid, snarky question though. Do the guys that make smart boards get any money off of this, or are they just getting screwed at this point?
Yeah, they're not getting anything.
No. All right, let's move on. Savant has a new CEO, and he's asking, or he's getting ready to answer the question: is Savant Apple's answer to the smart home? I have no affiliation with Savant. I don't sell it. I've never programmed it. I have used it. It's not bad. Those are the comments that I will make. I will let you two, though, load them up and fire away. Aaron, we'll start with you. Simple question: Is Savant the Apple for the home automation?
Well, I'm not really a Resi person, so I'm not going to be the best person to ask. But when I first hear that question, I think Apple for the home. I think you've overpriced. Can't do what I want to do to control my home. So, I somewhat think of Crestron almost, but not so much. Because Crestron will let you do whatever you want. It's just maybe overpriced. But yeah, I'm not the best person to ask because I'm happy with either kind of going with like Logitech's controlling of your home theater, or I know there's the X10 debates in the past couple shows about controlling your home, but I'm Savant's almost middle of the road, right? It's not quite Crestron as far as price and feature set goes, but it's a step up from like X10 or what Logitech might offer, what some of the other lower end stuff. But I'm not the best person to ask. I don't follow Savant in any way, and I don't deal with residential installs. So
This is a total sidebar. Can we leave poor X10 alone? They're dead. Let them lie. Jeez, I'm sorry.
You keep bringing it up in the show.
I know.
So others bring it up because
feel bad. I feel bad. And poor Harry Mead still has it running his lights. So anyhow, all right, Nate.
Well, when he uninstalls it, we'll stop bringing it up.
There we go.
So.
You hear that, Harry? As soon as you stop using X10. Nate, is Savant the Apple for the home automation?
Oh man, you're gonna have to ask Jason Griffin about this one. He's the guy that I hear talk about Savant all the time because he comes from the high-end residential world out in Los
Why is he
Angeles.
talking about Savant? I'm sorry, I'd say that out loud. So
yeah, so you know what? From that perspective, I hear this high-end guy out in LA talk about Savant and how he uses it all the time. So if it's popular in Hollywood, then maybe there's some truth to this article here.
yeah, there are some other things popular in Hollywood that I won't be doing, but that's just my little conservative butt from the Midwest. So
yeah, I'm again, just like Aaron, I'm not really a residential guy, so I don't have my head wrapped around Savant at all, unfortunately.
yeah,
So it's applicable for the people with the money bags, but not practical for people like us.
well, that's the thing, though. That's the weird thing
takeaway?
is the fact that it's not that expensive, right? It's not that expensive from everything that because I have researched.
So what does Apple have to do with it then?
That's
where's the Apple comparison?
I think the Apple comparison is the fact that you can't do everything you want, which is where you go back to, okay, if I can't do everything I want, then I might as well go with an AMX or a Crestron product, or you know what? I tell you what, I have been seeing a lot from Command Fusion. I have a guy here in town that he was a residential installer and integrator. And he opened up a bar, and I went in and just my wife and I went in for something to eat, and he's doing this touch panel thing, and he's got like 5 racks in the back of the bar with the glass panel, so he's showing the sucker off, and I just doing what I do. I'm like, okay, cool, you using Crestron? He goes, no, I'm using Fusion. I'm like, really? So the interface was very sexy. The interface was very nice. I've never again used it, but it was another one of those control systems that it kind of intrigued me, at least, kind of like Savant does. It's almost geared to residential. Yes, this guy was using it in a bar and grill, but it's what he knew, right? It would be like if Randy Klein opened a bar, he would use Crestron, but this is what this guy knew, and it was very, very impressive for what it was. So
That's probably where the residential market differs from the corporate or education market, because with an integrator can deal with one house and try something new and customize it to the user's liking. Well, for education or corporate or whatever, it's not just one room. It's when you decide on something, it's going to be most likely for every room. Yeah. So you got to make sure you test it and create a standard around it.
You do, except for there are certain parts, and this is the old, I was a technology manager last week, for crying out loud. I would go out on the limb on projectors, right? Every once in a while, we were a big the college I worked for is still a big LCD house, and we brought in a couple of DLPs every once in a while just to do shoot comparisons and this, that, and the other. But you're right, Aaron. When it comes to control systems and when it comes to your asset management systems, you're going to do a lot of testing. You're going to do a lot of hand wringing. You're going to do a lot of talking. But once you pull the trigger, that's it, dude. You're not going to do a whole lot of tinkering. So,
Right.
Commercial Integrator had a story about Panasonic and the Olympic Winter Games. Does anybody care?
Well, when I saw that, I was like, wait, Christie's not doing the projectors for this Olympics, and so because it just what I've taken away from AV stuff in the Olympics was back in China in 2008 with Christie.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the 150 or whatever projectors in the bird's nest. So when I saw the Panasonic thing, I'm like, okay, and I looked, and wow, there's 7,000 security cameras or whatever, and then I looked, and Panasonic was past sponsors for the Olympics, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever.
But yeah,
I just
Christie had
remember
a lot.
Christie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know if anybody really cares.
Well, and if you remember the opening Olympics for the Beijing Olympics, the OLED screens they had. Somebody correct me on this. I want to say it was LG, but I could be wrong on the people who manufactured
I don't remember.
that. So, all right, and you're right, and it goes back to Sony. Actually, Panasonic is a company that has a lot of verticals. They have a lot of products there, from TV monitors to cameras to all sorts of stuff. All right, guys, last story here, and I'll let you go. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about the fact that Blu-ray may be on its way out, but our friends and yours at the NSA, I mean Facebook, is using Blu-rays for quote-unquote cold storage. If you don't know this, a Blu-ray is roughly 50 gigabytes worth of information, depending on how you process it. I'm not going to get in debate about that, but roughly 50 gigs of information. So it's not a bad idea. It's for stuff like backups of your baby pictures and stuff like that. Nate, is this something where maybe not Blu-rays, but something where in the AV world when we're doing programmings, we should consider stuff like this when it comes to cold storage, things that maybe not getting information back from maybe stuff that we don't have to get every single day, but every once in a while you got to grab this module out and use it.
Yeah. Okay. So there is some value here. I think it sounds kind of crazy, but I think at the core of what this article is talking about using 10,000 Blu-rays to store cold data. I'm still wrapping my head around it, but basically, I'm picturing when you walked into a restaurant and there was an old school jukebox with like the CDs like right in front of you, and you picked one, and an arm came and popped the CD into the tray, and you had to wait 5 seconds, and another robotic arm came over here, and so that's basically what we're talking about here, but with 10,000 Blu-ray discs. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of robotics going on to make this happen. But on a simpler level, something like an everyday user like you or I could do, I think it is a good idea to put your baby pictures on a Blu-ray and tuck them away, make a couple copies, send a couple copies to grandma. If you wanna really have a solid backup, it's best to do it at least 3 places. Have a network drive, a USB drive, and then to Blu-ray. And I think 3 places and 2 locations and 3 different formats or something like that. There's all kinds of rules to creating backups, and I just hooked up my home studio. I have a network drive that now gets backed up to a USB drive, and then like I said before, I have like baby pictures and stuff on DVD. But I don't know if people are going to be buying Blu-ray cold storage machines anytime soon.
It might help save Sony.
There you go.
That's how we can save Sony. Aaron, is this a good idea, bad idea to use Blu-rays and their 50 gig capacity as cold storage, as it were?
Well, it's a interesting thing that they're working on, because it reminds me a lot of what Google does as far as their servers. They have these really inexpensive servers that take up little room. I mean, they're in trailers, these modular trailers that they can just dump and deploy. So, but if you look at what RAID stands for, it's a redundant array of inexpensive disks. What's Blu-ray? A bunch of inexpensive disks.
It's not inexpensive. They're expensive.
Oh, I'm sure Sony will give them a discount. So, but no, it's interesting because they have a need to back up this data.
Yeah.
So they don't need to be accessible instantly. So so they want to get away from a spinning disk. Okay, makes sense. What's the traditional method? Tape. Okay, tape. How long are we going to be on tape? And And a Blu-ray disc, I believe, holds the same as tape, if not maybe a little bit more. I guess it depends on if it's double-sided or what. And so if they could keep the backups on site or even take them off site, but have them in a fairly compact enclosure, and sure, it's a little bit of robotics, but there's robotics with the tape backup systems already, so that's nothing new. A disc takes up a lot less space than tape. Okay, it's looking somewhat attractive, and it's kind of a homebrew type thing, which, I mean, it's being built internally, so it's not like it's a company trying to make a business plan out of it.
Yeah.
They're trying to do something internally to save costs. And then eventually, flash is getting cheaper and cheaper. Move to flash. You can increase your capacity and even shrink the amount of space that it takes up. So if they can nail down the process to design and deploy this for Blu-ray discs, then they get most of what they need to switch it over to some sort of flash storage, which then not only is it low power, but you don't have the spin up time as a disk would have. You can now, it would be almost the same as having a spinning drive with the data on it, and you just instantly access it when you need it. So flash would make the recovery times much faster.
Well, Aaron, let me ask you a question. So I just thought of this when you were talking. I mean, right now I think there might be some relevance to, cold storage on Blu-ray because it is inexpensive and it takes, it consumes less energy than having a server that's sucking power off the grid. But as things are getting smaller and smaller, and they get smaller and smaller every year, I think they just unveiled at what was that trade show that just happened a few months ago, that CES, where they Intel unveiled these like tiny little nano something or other processors. So I don't know, just maybe right here and now a Blu-ray disc kind of makes sense. But as things get smaller and smaller over time, when will just the size of a Blu-ray disc kind of make it irrelevant? You think that's part of the equation? Well, I think
that's where flash storage has been dropping in price like crazy. So I think when Blu-ray becomes irrelevant will be when flash becomes economically feasible. Cheaper, yeah. So that and I'm sure somebody could do it with flash storage. I mean, they're starting to use solid state drives in enterprise environments, maybe not necessarily by themselves, but using it to pre-cache data in a RAID. Drobo does it. Drobo has a NAS box that you put a whole bunch of regular hard disk drives in it, and then you put a couple solid states in it, and it'll determine what data it thinks you're going to access or what data you have been accessing frequently, pre-cache it onto the SSD, so now it's even faster to transfer to it. So you can see they're starting to integrate these, integrate flash and SSDs into storage plans. So it only makes sense that eventually we'll move away from Blu-rays that are optical, move to flash because it's low power. Eventually it'll be low cost, and it's extremely fast. So right now Blu-ray's got maybe the low cost. I guess it depends.
Relatively, relative to SSD.
Doesn't take up a lot of space. I can tell you that a disc takes up a whole lot less space than a tape, even if you do double-sided dual layer. I mean, that's a lot less space than
it'll take up a lot less physical space. Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of makes sense, and especially as an internal project. If a company was doing this as a business plan, yeah, okay, that'd be odd, but it's just an internal thing that Facebook is doing it now. It's weird that it's Facebook that's doing it, but I guess I don't know how much storage they currently manage right now and how many petabytes they have, but so I guess it makes sense for Facebook, but it's no different than what Google does and their internal projects, or maybe the likes of like IBM or some of the other skunkworks type stuff that's out there.
By the way, if you want a lesson in how cheap or not SSDs are, try buying a new laptop, because I did that this week, and they're not. I went back and forth, dude. I really did. I talked to a lot of smart programmers, Chris Tatton and Fregosa, and my buddy Steve Greenblatt, and I'm like, okay, I've got to get a new programming laptop because that's part of my job now. And I said, what do I need? And they, good information. And one of the most common was try to find an SSD and a solid state drive or a hybrid, and trying to balance the size limitations of the current SSDs. I think the largest I could get whether it was HP or Dell or some of the other PC manufacturers, was about 500 gigs, which is it's not a small drive, right? But you compare that to, you can get a freaking 2 terabyte drive right now in a laptop if you want. So I know.
But you need 2 terabytes in a laptop for programming, so that's
yes.
No.
Yeah, you do, because you have to have your audio library for when you're programming. You have to listen to music. I have to listen to the Backstreet Boys and I can't think of another band to embarrass myself about. So
that's funny you mentioned that, because when I first came on board at ImageStream and we were designing these systems, and we had to take so much care into making sure we had stereo audio, coming out of the ceiling speakers. And I'm like, why do we care about stereo audio? And one of my colleagues that was training was like, these doctors and nurses really care about their music, and it's not for any clinical purpose at all. It's so that the surgeon can rock out when he's removing whatever tumor you got inside you.
That's comforting.
That should be on the pre-op there. What music is my doctor allowed to listen to?
No Metallica.
No Metallica. No buddy. Warrant. No Wheeze. Lice Soft.
Megadeth.
Jeez. Insane Clown Posse. All right, let's stop. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. That gentleman right there, his name's Aaron Wilson. He is in Enterprise AV and a fellow technology manager. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And where can people find you if they'd like to, or you could just tell people to go away if you don't want them to find you?
The LinkedIn group forums, so the Crestron forums or the InfoComm forums on LinkedIn. That's where I usually lurk. So
very good. Also with us is Big Nate, Nate How To from. Thank you, sir. And how can people find you and your fabulous web show?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, and that's youtube.com/BigNate84, or on Twitter at BigNate84 How To.
Very good. My name's Tim Albright. Don't follow me. I'm not very interesting. But go by the website, because the guys who did it did a fabulous job on it, and it was not me. But they were actually keep tweaking it. But they're doing a really good job with it. So you'll find this show and a host of others where we actually are going to do a new State of Control here in the next couple of weeks, which is our control programming show. We had a new ed tech last month. We have a new AV social coming down the pike. Live Life is brand new this month as well. So yeah, go by the website if you would, please. AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. It's all the time we have for AV Week.